2023 saw the highest number of bills introduced in state legislatures attacking LGBTQ rights. 500 bills have been proposed, with 75 of them becoming law. These new laws, including restrictions on gender-affirming care, fair participation in school sports, school curriculum, and much, much more. And the trans community and its allies have been doing all they can to fight the injustice. Protests are planned for today in New York City to show solidarity with the trans community in Tennessee after the state passed a law banning drag performances in view of children.
We see that they're basically copying and pasting this language, this type of language, and using it in other local legislatures across the country.
For me, in that moment, it felt critical that I stand up in defense of my community and call out these pieces of legislation for what they are, which is harmful.
The American Academy of Pediatrics, the American Medical Association, the American Psychological Association, and over a dozen other well-renowned medical organizations support the use of gender-affirming care for minors.
When we talk about the trans community and children, the number of suicidal ideations that they have is devastating. So if this legislation that they are putting forth is going to cause more harm than good, and they need to be mindful of that.
So according to the Williams Institute at UCLA Law, there have been over 100,000 trans teens living in the 22 states that have laws restricting gender-affirming care as of October of 2023. I want to bring in now Imara Jones, the founder and CEO of Translash Media, to talk more about this and much, much more. Imara, thanks for joining us on this. Happy holidays, by the way, to you and yours. What a beautiful Christmas tree you have behind you. I want to talk about some of these laws that have been instituted as of late. Some of them have started to include, some of the states, I should say, have started to include these grandfather clauses, essentially allowing those that were already receiving gender-affirming care to continue receiving gender-affirming care. But here's what we wrote at NBC. In many of the states that have put these clauses in place, gender clinics and hospitals have suspended gender-affirming care programs anyway. The grandfather clause causes providers to not even risk it because that vague law does not give them enough detail of exactly what they can and cannot do. And this was written by Caitlin Burns here at NBC News. Talk to me about the damages that have been done with these laws put into place.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and happy holidays to you as well. The damage is incalculable. We can think about damage in terms of numbers, but what this actually means for individual families, for the safety and health of their young people, the families that are having to decide whether or not they're going to stay in a state or go, families that are having to decide whether or not they are going to have to split up their family with one parent staying in the state, for example, if their kid has special needs and the other parent moved to another state so that the kid can get gender-affirming care. It's almost incalculable when you look at this in an even more detailed way. And of course, the fact, very similar to the anti-abortion movement, of course, a lot of the tactics are the same, to put pressure on closing gender-affirming healthcare in states to make it essentially unfeasible. So we saw, for example, what happened in Tennessee, at Vanderbilt, in South Texas, and in so many other places. So I think that we have to understand that this is not only an assault on families and children, but also on our healthcare system as well.
Imara, what is Translash Media doing to combat these laws and to also help so many of these young people and people that are going through transitioning and unable to do so in some of these more restrictive states?
Well, we do two things. I think one, we allow for young people to express themselves through a zine that we produce that allows them to weigh in ways that center art and a whole host of other things. I think we also let them know that they're not alone more generally and that they are a part of a community through the content that we put together. And we've also, of course, set up an investigative unit inside of Translash, which has looked into why and where a lot of these bills are coming from and the ways in which it's connected to a much larger political agenda. So we're doing everything that we can.
Imara Jones, thank you. I'm sorry that we have not a lot of time, but we definitely need to continue this conversation into the new year. Thanks, Imara. Appreciate it.